My name is Sarah Schmidt, and I am 28 years old. I stopped telling my family about my life around my 24th birthday. No drama, no slammed doors, just silence. The kind that grows like dust in corners when no one opens a window. It was easier to learn to be quiet than to keep clearing my throat in a room that never looked up. My brother Daniel is the headline. Straight A's, team captain, corporate ladder like an escalator. His engagement photos look like they were taken on a magazine set, sunset, tailored suit, Rachel's dress billowing as if the wind had been hired by a stylist. My sister Claire is the syndication. Dean's List, a marketing job where the office lobby has eucalyptus water and lettering on the wall that says something about disrupting possibility. Our family dinners were recaps of their episodes. And me, the middle child, present, helpful, someone who passed the salt and said, "That's great," at all the right times. A friendly background extra in the series called The Schmidts, shot in our parents' dining room with a dimmer stuck on bright for everyone but me. So I stopped watering a plant that refused to grow. I showed up for holidays because not showing up would cause a group chat avalanche. I sent birthday cards because not sending them would be rude. I kept my face in the photos and my words to "sounds great" and "people forget. Invisibility is heavy. It has to be carried." Then I met Jordan. It was a small coffee shop that believes in chalkboard poetry and pretends the faulty outlet in the back is a feature, not a hazard. We reached for it at the same time, and the barista loaned us one frayed extension cord. 2 laptops, 1 outlet, and 3 hours later, I knew the color of his laughter. He was a graphic designer, the kind who notices the kerning on street signs and sketches people when they're not looking because he wants to remember the way they hold their disappointment or their joy. He asked me what I do, and when I said I was a lead developer managing a team, he asked the second question no one in my family ever did. "What do you like building most?" I told him. He listened. Not nodding just to be polite, listening to understand where the heat is when I talk about work. 6 months in, he asked about my family. I said, "We're fine," the way people say, "It might rain," already putting on a raincoat. He asked if they knew about him. I said, "Not yet," which was part truth, part superstition. I tried to explain the rhythm of my family, where my news never quite found a microphone. He said nothing for a beat, and then, carefully, "Do you want me to meet them?" I told him I didn't know if it would matter. "They won't remember your name anyway." He winced the way soft people do when sharpness grazes them. Jordan's family invited me first. His mom, Patricia, hugged me like a quilt. His dad, Robert, surrendered half his vinyl collection within 30 minutes just to see me smile. His sister Maya asked for my opinion on bangs like it was a matter of national policy. They didn't interrogate me or audition me. They included me. "You're welcome here any time," Patricia said at the door. She looked like she meant it. I found myself wanting to believe her. 9 months later, I told my family I was seeing someone. We were at dinner. Daniel and Rachel had a slideshow of their engagement photos looping on the TV. My announcement floated into the room like a drone with a low battery. "Oh, that's nice," Mom said. "What's his name?" When I said Jordan, Claire blinked. 9 months and you're just telling us?" Dad asked if it was serious. "Yes," I said. "Well," Mom pivoted, "don't rush into anything." Then she turned back to Daniel. "Did you decide on the invitations?" I told Jordan the next day. He repeated their words, not cruelly, just to hear how they sounded in the air. "Don't rush into anything. After 9 months?" He tried to smile at me. I tried to smile back. "Do you want me to meet them?" he asked again. "Honestly? I don't think it matters," I said. "They won't remember your name anyway." He took my hand. "I will." 6 months after that, on our living room floor, with takeout containers, like a modern still life, Jordan said simply, "Marry me." The ring wasn't expensive, it was correct. A plain band that felt like a vow rather than an accessory. My yes was immediate and certain, a muscle that had been practicing in secret. We told his family that night. There was shrieking in the kitchen and champagne we'd been saving for something. Patricia cried happy, eyes bright, hands fluttering. It was loud, messy joy, the kind that stains. 3 days later, we told my family at Sunday brunch. I said, Jordan and I have some news. Silence measured itself in utensils, then a mild chorus of congratulations. Polite, tepid, precise. Dad asked how long we'd been together. 1.5 years. He nodded like he was scanning a warranty. If you're sure, he said. I was. But certainty is immune to no one's indifference. Mom cleared her throat and asked Daniel about a caterer. That night, I sat at our small desk and designed an invitation that looked like the inside of my chest. Cream stock, warm gold lettering, the mountain venue hand-sketched in the corner. I wrote my parents' names and Daniel's and Claire's and Aunt Linda's and Uncle Joe's. I wrote every relative who'd smiled politely while I disappeared. I paid extra for certified mail, signature required. Jordan watched me as I sealed each one. Evidence? He asked. Hope, I said. He nodded, because he knows those are cousins. The delivery confirmations came in like weather reports. June 15th, 10:47 a.m., signed by Linda Schmidt. June 16th, 2:32 p.m., signed by R. Chen. June 14th, 3:15 p.m., signed by C. Schmidt. Names I loved, now in black ink under the word received. Proof that my life had knocked on their doors and been handed a pen. I watched the calendar like a person waiting for a bus she's not sure exists. RSVP deadline, July 15th. I texted Mom on the last day. Did you get the wedding invitation? RSVP is today. 3 hours later. Oh yes, we got something. Is that really happening? I stared at my phone until it blurred. Yes, I typed. August 12th. She wrote back, we'll see. Summer is really busy. Jordan found me in bed with my shoes still on. What happened? He asked. I handed him the phone. He read the thread, thumb moving slowly, and then put the phone down like it was fragile. You can't force people to see you, he said, voice low. But you can build a life with people who already do. I nodded. I wanted to be that brave. The RSVP deadline slid by like a tide. From my family, nothing. Not a yes, not a no, not a maybe. Just the familiar hum of them being busy. In the group chat, there were 143 messages about Daniel's wedding. Dress fittings, the vineyard, jokes about the bachelor party. I posted once. Quick reminder. Our wedding is August 12th. Mom reacted with a thumbs up. Claire added a heart. Aunt Linda, a smiley face. No one asked where or when or what to wear or how to get there. If attention is a kind of currency, my family had exact change for everyone but me. One night, I opened the invitation files on my laptop and scrolled through the proofs, envelopes, stamps, addresses, all that planning. Jordan came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my shoulders. We're still getting married on August 12th, he said into my hair, like a promise whispered to the dark, even if it's just us and a mountain. I swallowed. It won't be just us, I said, though I wasn't sure who I was trying to convince. We'll have 50, he said, 50 who show up. I closed the laptop and turned to him. 50 is enough, I said. He smiled the way people do when they mean it. I moved the delivery receipts into a manila folder and slid it onto the entry table, where keys and truths go when you don't know what to do with them yet. I told myself it was organization, but I knew what it was, a fuse I might need to light. Do you think they'll come? Jordan asked from the hallway. To what? I said. To your life, he said. I stared at the folder. We'll see, I answered, using my mother's words and wondering why they sounded like an apology in my mouth. The weeks leading up to our wedding felt like a waiting room with no clock. Every day I checked the mailbox as if my family's love might arrive late, but still arrive. It never did. By mid-July, the RSVP deadline had passed. 50 envelopes were neatly stacked on our counter, 47 from friends and Jordan's family, 3 from my coworkers. Not a single one bore my last name. Jordan tried to keep the mood light. He hung fairy lights across the balcony, tasted 3 kinds of cake samples, argued with the florist about color palettes. He was good at filling silence with laughter. I was good at pretending it was enough. One night, I found him sitting on the floor surrounded by RSVP cards, matching the handwriting to our guest list. Your side's smaller, he said softly, as if apologizing for math. I shrugged. Less confusion about seating. He looked at me for a long time. You don't have to joke your way through this. I'm not joking, I said. Just accepting. He put a hand on my knee. You shouldn't have to accept being invisible. I wanted to tell him I'd trained for it my whole life. August 12th arrived, clear and gold. The mountain air smelled of pine and promise. 50 guests, friends, co-workers, Jordan's cousins, and his parents filled the rows of white chairs. Not one chair with my family's name card was used. When Patricia saw the empty seats, she touched my shoulder gently. Honey, maybe traffic? No, I said. They signed for the invitations. Her eyes softened in that quiet, motherly way that doesn't ask more because it already knows. When I walked down the aisle, I caught Jordan's expression and felt my chest unclench for the first time in years. He was crying, not because of who wasn't there, but because I was. We exchanged vows under a wooden arch covered in wildflowers. I said mine slowly, carefully, because this time I wanted every word to land somewhere it would be heard. At the reception, we danced barefoot under string lights, and someone yelled for us to kiss during the first song. For a few hours, I wasn't the middle child. I wasn't the afterthought. I was the center of a story that finally had me in focus. When it was over, Patricia hugged me tight. You're family now, she said into my hair. I believed her. 3 days later, I checked the family group chat. 143 messages about Daniel's upcoming vineyard wedding, none mentioning mine. Mom had sent photos of flower arrangements. Dad made jokes about rehearsal dinners. Claire debated shades of mauve. I posted once. Quick reminder, Jordan and I got married last weekend. There were 3 reactions. Mom's, Claire's, Aunt Linda's. No words. No congratulations. Just emojis, like digital crumbs tossed to keep me quiet. I didn't reply. By October, Daniel's wedding had become the family's full-time occupation. At Sunday brunch, they passed around centerpieces mock-ups and vineyard brochures like sacred relics. I sat at the far end of the table, stirring my coffee. The gold band on my finger glinted every time I reached for the sugar. No one noticed. Mom said, Sarah, you've been quiet lately. I smiled. Nothing new there. She laughed politely and went back to asking Rachel about flower deliveries. The day of Daniel's wedding was like walking through a glossy magazine. Vineyard, fall colors, champagne that tasted like approval. I took my seat, table 14, far from the family table. Claire found me between courses. You're being really quiet today, she said. Am I? Is everything okay? Everything's fine. You sure? You seem distant. I looked at her and thought about all the invisible years stacked between us. I'm good, Claire. Just tired. She nodded, satisfied. Okay, well, enjoy the wedding. And then she bounced away, laughing with the bridesmaids. When the band started playing, I slipped out. No one called after me. Back home, Jordan was waiting in sweats, a bowl of popcorn between his hands. How was it, Vaishis? He asked. Perfect, I said. Every detail. And you? Invisible, I said. He pulled me close. Their loss. I know, I whispered. But it still hurts. I know. We sat there on the couch in silence, the kind that's safe. Jordan finally said, They're going to find out eventually. About what? That you're married. That we've been married for 3 months. I smiled without joy. Maybe they'll see it in the Christmas newsletter. He looked at me carefully. How do you want them to find out? I stared at the blank TV screen reflecting our faces. I don't want them to just hear it, I said slowly. I want them to see it, really see it. He didn't ask what that meant. He just nodded, like he already knew I was building something. 2 weeks later, Mom sent a group chat message. Thanksgiving at our house this year. Everyone must come. Big family gathering. No excuses. 53 replies followed within an hour. Everyone confirming. Everyone excited. Daniel and Rachel said they had special news. Claire said she'd bring her new boyfriend. I stared at my screen until the words blurred. Jordan came into the room. What's wrong? They invited everyone for Thanksgiving, I said. He paused. You're going? I nodded slowly. Yeah, this time I think I will. My eyes flicked toward the manila folder on the entry table, the one with every signed delivery receipt. Jordan followed my gaze. Sarah, are you sure? I'm tired of being invisible, I said. Maybe it's time they finally see me. Thanksgiving morning arrived sharp and cold. the kind of air that slices through nostalgia. I woke early, made coffee, and stared at the manila folder sitting on the counter. Inside were the receipts, proof that my family hadn't just forgotten my wedding. They had received it, signed for it, and discarded it. Jordan came up behind me, arms around my waist. "You don't have to do this," he said softly. "I know." "But you're going to." "I have to," I whispered. "Not for revenge, for closure." He studied my face for a long moment. "Promise you'll come home after?" I turned, kissed him, and said, "Promise." The drive to my parents' house took 30 minutes. 30 minutes to reconsider. 30 minutes to remember all the Thanksgivings where I filled plates, cleared dishes, laughed on cue, always there, but never really seen. This time, I wouldn't blend in with the wallpaper. When I parked outside, the house already looked busy. Cars lined the driveway, golden lights spilling from the windows. Through the curtains, I saw silhouettes moving, laughing, passing dishes. The scene looked warm, until you remembered the temperature of the people inside. I sat for 5 more minutes, heart pounding. Then I grabbed the folder, stepped out, and walked toward the door. Mom opened it before I could knock. "Sarah, there you are. We were wondering when you'd show up." She hugged me tightly. Her perfume, the same floral cloud from every childhood holiday, hit me like muscle memory. I hugged back, mechanically. "Hi, Mom." "Come in. We're just setting up dinner. Everyone's here." The house smelled like cinnamon and turkey, exactly as it always did. Daniel was showing honeymoon photos on the TV. The Amalfi Coast, vineyards, luxury hotels. Everyone oohed and awed. Claire was introducing her boyfriend, Jake, to Aunt Linda. They were laughing, already planning a family trivia game. I stood in the doorway, unseen. Mom offered, "Want something to drink?" "I'm good," I said. "Okay, make yourself at home." Funny thing, I thought. I never really had one here. Dinner began. Long table, perfectly arranged, like a magazine spread. I ended up between Uncle Joe and Cousin Jason, both already half buzzed from wine. Conversation filled the air. Daniel's promotion, Claire's career, Rachel's boutique opening. At one point, Dad said, "We're so lucky this year. Daniel's wedding, Claire's new job, everyone's doing so well." I waited for someone to ask, "And you, Sarah?" No one did. I cut into the turkey, listening to their voices blur into background noise. Same script, different year. After dinner, everyone drifted to the living room, full and content. Football hummed on the TV. Someone passed pumpkin pie. I sat quietly, feeling the weight of the folder on my lap. Then Emily, my cousin, turned to me with a cheerful smile that made my chest tighten. "Daniel's wedding was incredible," she said. "Seriously, one of the best I've been to. So Sarah, when's your turn? When are you finally going to settle down?" The room went quiet. Utensils froze. Even the TV seemed to dim. I set down my fork. "Actually," I said softly, "I already did." A few heads turned. "What?" Claire asked, blinking. "I already got married," I said. "August 12th. You all got invitations." The silence that followed was almost tender in how complete it was. Dad frowned. "Sarah, that's not funny." "It's not a joke." I stood up slowly. "Every single one of you signed for the invitations. I have proof." Mom's face paled. "What are you talking about? We never got anything." I walked to the entry table, picked up the folder, and carried it back like a sacred text. "Here," I said, opening it. I slid the first sheet across the table. Delivery confirmation. June 15th, 10:47 a.m. Signed by Linda Schmidt. Mom stared at her own name. Her lips trembled. I don't remember this." I pulled out another. June 16th, 2:32 p.m. Signed by Rachel Chen. Rachel's hand flew to her mouth. That's my signature." Another sheet. June 14th, 3:15 p.m. Signed by Claire Schmidt. Claire took it, eyes wide. I thought it was one of your pranks." "My pranks?" I said. "When have I ever done anything like that?" No answer. Just the sound of a TV commentator talking about touchdowns in another world. Dad cleared his throat, defensive. "All right, let's not blow this out of proportion. If you wanted us there, you could have called, made sure we understood." "I sent certified mail requiring signatures, Dad. I texted Mom after, and she said, 'We'll see.' What part of that was unclear?" He exhaled sharply. "That summer was busy, Sarah. You should have followed up." I did, I said. You just didn't care. Mom started crying softly. We didn't think it was real. Why not? I asked. What about me made you think I wasn't capable of getting married? Rachel shook her head, whispering, I didn't mean to. But you did, I said gently. You saw my name and assumed it wasn't important. I took a breath, then pulled out the final sheet, a printed list of RSVPs, 50 names, not one of theirs. This was our guest list, I said. 50 people who showed up. Friends, coworkers, Jordan's family, everyone who wanted to be there. None of you. Aunt Linda spoke weakly. We didn't know we were supposed to respond. I almost laughed. You all managed to RSVP for Daniel's wedding just fine. I held up my phone, opened in the screenshots. 143 messages about Daniel's wedding, I said, scrolling. Here's mine. One message reminding you about the date, 3 reactions, no replies. The silence in the room felt like a verdict. I got married without a single member of my family there, I said finally. You didn't forget. You just didn't show up. Mom reached for me. Sarah, please. No, I said. You always say you love me, but love is action, not habit. Love reads invitations. Love asks questions. Love shows up. I put the folder down on the table, the papers spilling out like evidence in a trial no one wanted. Then I stood up, calm, clear. You can keep those, I said, proof that I tried. Dad's voice rose, brittle. You're being dramatic. People make mistakes. I know, I said. And my mistake was thinking you'd ever notice if I stopped waiting for you. I grabbed my coat. Mom's tears broke into a sob. Sarah, please don't leave like this. You're our daughter. We love you. I looked at her, really looked. The woman who once told me we're proud of all our kids, right before asking Daniel about his new project. If you loved me, I said quietly, you would have opened the envelope. Then I turned and walked out. The air outside was freezing, sharp with pine and distance. Behind me, I could hear voices rising. Apologies, confusion, defensiveness, panic. I didn't turn back. The front door shut behind me like punctuation. In the car, my hands shook. My phone started buzzing. Mom calling, Claire calling, Daniel calling, one after another, until the dashboard glowed with missed connections. I turned it face down. For once, I didn't feel invisible. I just felt done. I didn't remember the drive home, only the rhythm of my heartbeat against the steering wheel and the way the streetlights passed like metronomes marking the end of something. When I parked in front of our apartment, Jordan was already standing by the window. The moment I stepped inside, he didn't ask. He just opened his arms. I folded into him, the folder still clutched in my hand. You did it, he murmured. I did. How do you feel? I thought for a second. Empty, but light. We sat on the couch. I told him everything. The turkey smell, the silence, the receipts, Mom's face going pale, Dad's defensiveness, Claire's excuses, how no one could look at me after. Jordan held my hand the entire time, thumb brushing the ring on my finger. Do you regret it? He asked softly. No, I said. For once, I said it all, and they heard me. He nodded. Good. Over the next few days, my phone became an alarm I didn't set. Calls, voicemails, texts, each one a ripple of panic from the family group that had ignored me for years. Mom, please call me. We need to talk. Claire, I didn't know you were serious. Please let me explain. Daniel, Dad says you overreacted. Can we meet for coffee? I didn't reply to any of them. I kept the phone on silent until the screen dimmed from exhaustion. The only message that broke through came a week later, an envelope in the mail, handwritten, the ink faint and careful. The return address was from Grandma's old house. Inside was a letter in her delicate handwriting. My dearest Sarah, I had no idea you were getting married. If I had known, I would have been there, with bells on. You have always mattered to me, even if others forget to say it. I hope your husband is kind and that he makes you laugh. That's all I've ever wanted for you. Love you always, Grandma. There was no guilt in her words, no excuses, just kindness. I sat on the couch and read it 3 times until the paper felt warm from my hands. Jordan came in from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. What's that? Grandma's letter, I said. Good or bad? Good. Simple. Real. He smiled. You going to write back? Yeah, I said. I think I will. That night, I wrote her a note. Dear Grandma, thank you for your letter. The wedding was small but perfect. Mountain air, wildflowers, laughter. Jordan is good to me. We're happy. Sending a picture of us under the arch. Love, Sarah. I slipped a photo into the envelope. Me and Jordan, barefoot on the grass, laughing at something the photographer had said. 2 weeks later, another card arrived from her. That smile on your face says more than anything. Tell Jordan I said welcome to the family, and make sure he keeps you laughing like that. I cried quietly at the kitchen table, not because it hurt, but because it finally didn't. December came, cold and mercifully still. Jordan and I bought a tiny fake tree from a thrift store and decorated it with mismatched ornaments. We strung lights that only half worked and drank hot chocolate that tasted too sweet. No one invited me to Christmas dinner. No one asked where I was. It was the most peaceful holiday I'd ever had. We spent New Year's Eve on our building's rooftop. Plastic champagne flutes, cheap bubbly, and fireworks that bloomed just enough to feel celebratory. At midnight, Jordan looked at me. Do you miss them? He asked. I thought about it. I miss the idea of them, the version of family I thought I had. He nodded. That's fair, I smiled. But I don't miss being invisible. Good, he said. You never were to me. We kissed under the fireworks. For the first time, I didn't feel the ache of wanting to be seen. I already was. January faded into February. Jordan got a job offer from a nonprofit that actually valued weekends. I took on a new project at work that finally allowed me to quit my side gig. We moved into a bigger apartment, nothing fancy, but it had light, space, and the kind of quiet that doesn't hurt. We bought a dining table big enough for 6, though there were only 2 of us. Sometimes we filled it with friends, coworkers, neighbors, people who showed up. We'd cook, spill wine, and laugh until the walls shook. The kind of noise that feels like belonging. One evening, Jordan was cooking pasta, music playing softly in the background. He moved around the kitchen in socks, sauce splattering across the counter. I leaned against the doorway watching. You're making a mess, he grinned. It's art. Abstract art? Exactly. He turned, holding up a spoonful. Taste this. I did. Perfect. Of course it is, he said. I used love and too much garlic. We laughed until we couldn't breathe. Later that night, we curled up on the couch. The old phone buzzed once from the drawer. I didn't even reach for it. Jordan looked up. Still coming in? Probably. Want me to smash it with a hammer? I smiled. Tempting. He tilted his head. Do you ever wonder what they're saying now? I paused. Sometimes, but I don't think it matters. I spent years waiting for them to notice me. Now I finally noticed myself. He nodded slowly. You're stronger than they ever gave you credit for. I brushed my thumb over his hand. Maybe they never gave it, but I learned to take it. We sat there in the soft hum of the heater and the flicker of city lights. The quiet didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt earned. By spring, the apartment started to smell like us. Coffee, citrus cleaner, and the basil plant that somehow refused to die on our windowsill. The old furniture was gone, replaced by pieces we built together, laughing over mismatched screws and IKEA instructions that made no sense. Life wasn't grand or cinematic. It was gentle, honest, full of tiny proofs that I belonged somewhere. Sometimes, when sunlight poured through the kitchen window, I'd catch sight of my wedding ring, the plain gold band glinting against the mug in my hand, and think about how no one in my family had noticed it for months. And then I'd smile, because now it didn't matter. Jordan and I hosted dinners. Friends brought laughter and leftovers. Music played too loud, and we'd end up eating dessert straight from the pan. There was no performance, no comparison, no checklist of achievements, just warmth. That's what showing up looked like. A few months later, an unexpected letter arrived. Not from my parents. I'd stopped expecting that, but from Claire. It was short, scrawled in her restless handwriting. Sarah, I've been thinking about that night. I'm sorry I didn't open the envelope. I'm sorry I didn't open my eyes sooner. I guess I thought you'd always be around, quietly forgiving us. You weren't wrong to stop. I hope you're happy. You deserve that. I read it twice, then tucked it into the same folder where I'd once kept the delivery receipts. It wasn't closure, not really, but it was acknowledgement, a single, fragile leaf growing from old ground. Jordan saw me standing there, holding the folder. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Better than okay. Months passed quietly. Seasons turned like gentle pages. Sometimes I still thought about my parents, the empty seat at their table, the stack of unopened cards, the birthdays that would pass without messages. But the ache had changed shape. It wasn't sharp anymore, just a faded echo. Because I'd learned something they never taught me. Love doesn't prove itself through grand speeches or empty words. It's proven in presence, in the way someone remembers your laugh or asks how your day really was, or saves you the last slice of cake just because. One evening, Jordan and I sat out on the balcony. The city hummed below, soft and distant. I leaned against him, the warm air brushing my skin. He asked, "Do you ever miss them?" I thought about it. Sometimes I miss who I wanted them to be, but not who they were. He nodded. That's fair. I smiled faintly. You know what's strange? I used to think forgiveness meant inviting them back in. Now I think it just means setting down the weight and walking away. Without bitterness? Without bitterness, I said. Just peace. He turned to me, eyes reflecting the city lights. You did that, Sarah. You built peace. I looked at him, at the man who had seen me, chosen me, stayed steady through every ghost of my past, and whispered, We built it. Later that night, I opened my laptop. The family group chat was still muted, still existing like an old photograph you can't quite throw away. I scrolled briefly. Messages about Daniel's baby shower, a vacation Claire took with her boyfriend, a recipe exchange. None addressed me directly. I hovered over the Leave Group button. Then, gently, I pressed it. No dramatic exit, no speech, just a quiet, final click. I closed the laptop and set it aside. Jordan was in the kitchen humming, pouring wine into two mismatched glasses. I walked over, slipped my arms around him from behind, and rested my cheek against his shoulder. What are we celebrating? I asked. He smiled. Nothing. Everything. We clinked glasses. The sound was soft, but it felt like applause. Later, in bed, I lay awake listening to the rhythm of his breathing beside me. Outside, rain tapped against the window. Steady, cleansing, new. My phone, the one I kept for work, buzzed once on the nightstand. A new message. Mom, thinking of you tonight. Hope you're well. I stared at it for a long time. There was no anger left, only distance. The kind that protects. I typed a single reply. I'm doing well. I hope you are too. Then I put the phone down and turned toward Jordan, tucking myself under his arm. The rain kept falling, gentle, unbothered, sure of its own rhythm. For the first time in my life, I didn't need to be seen to feel whole. I had built a life that did what love was always meant to do. It showed up,